otoliths, they're an interesting thing all of their own. How do you age an otolith? I understand it's a bit like a tree.
Yeah. So, there's a little fluid-filled cavity under the back of the head, right in line with the spine. Crack that open. There's two primary otoliths. A lot of fish will have smaller secondary ones that are more difficult to deal with.
Okay.
But yeah, they'll take them, set one in resin, and then cut it with a fine bone saw and put it on a slide and just count the rings, and it'll give you seasons that's been in the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you cutting it with?
They've got a super fine little wet saw down in the lab.
Okay.
Yeah. Then they mount it up and read it.
So tell us, from one of the species that you've had a personal look at, what was something really interesting, crazy almost, that you discovered? Can you think of a species that shocked you?
We've put a couple of otoliths through from some of the big jewfish a few of the guys have shot, and it's sort of well known that they'll last out for 40 years, but most of them are about 20.
What about baldies? Because I'm living in Brisbane now. It's my first time over here. I've got a bald chin groper on my hit list. Have you aged one before? And like a 5-6 kilo fish, which I understand is.
I haven't personally.
Okay.
Worked well. They'll have bucket loads of data on it, but it just hasn't. I've been interested in a 5 kilo baldy, to be honest.
So is that a new to the West Coast kind of thing?
No.
Some people sound like they like
I'm very interested in eating them. I haven't taken it a step further.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So your fish nerdery only goes in specific directions. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty much. Okay. So it's probably an ego thing, being a captain.
It's all ego. That's what I'm about.
No, I didn't pick up on any of that. But you've been very down to earth and interacted with a lot of people at a lot of levels of spearfishing for a long time. So, being the records keeper, I wanted to discuss with you the submissions process, and maybe if we had some, because a lot of people I think are curious at one time or another, maybe having a look at a record.
Yeah.
And I think specifically planning a species to target potentially. I don't know if it's that deliberate normally, but at least having an idea of where to find the records and maybe potentially researching one to target. Yep. Might be on someone's agenda, and then the process of how to actually submit it. So 15 questions in one.
Yeah. I'll do a submission.
Now I can have a beer and just.
Submissions. So to claim a record, you have to be a member of the AUF, but you don't have to be a member before you shoot. It used to be a bit harder on that front. Since I've taken over, we've slid that way. I'd like to see every great fish shot in Australia eligible to be put in. So if you shoot a record size fish, join up at that point. There's a social membership that's like $25 or something.
I was going to say, I joined up the other day because I wanted to compete in a comp, and it was $125 for the annual membership.
Yeah, the insurance component's pretty wild, but like I pay it because I'll do the comps periodically. But I totally get it if that's not their thing. Then that social membership, that's 12 months. You can claim as many records as you want within that. It's a $10 application fee. I spent most of that on cardboard and postage to send out the certificate. But yeah, biggest one is to get the application form and don't leave any blanks.
Okay.
It's pretty step by step. A lot of the time, IDing the fish isn't necessarily a big deal for a lot of the species people are dealing with. But I need really good photos because it's surprising you'll have species where people think it's one thing and it's actually a sister species or something a little off. But yeah, it's...
Some of them are very close too. Like I remember last year I was over Southern Great Barrier and Tim Nielsen holds I think it's like a 2-spot perch or something, but it looks like a mangrove jack.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you see it and you have a good look at it, you go, oh yeah, that's completely different. But you need that closer examination, and you need a trained eye to look for different features, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. The tropical snappers and a lot of the emperors, like in the spangled family, the Lethrinids, really close. There's plenty of stuff that I'll look at and be like, I think it's that, but I'm going to have to go to the books.
Yeah. So Grant's Guide comes out?
Yeah.
Grant's Guide, and you got more?
Yeah, Grant's is good because it's photos. and photos are nice. A really good starting point when you go to that was there's a few different books. If you pick up either Marine Fishes of Tropical Australia and Southeast Asia, that's an Allen, or Barry Hutchins has a Southern Sea Fishes one.
Okay.
And they've all got a lot of hand-drawn plates, but there's a lot of fish in there in family groups. And so it's nice to look at them side by side. Grant's Guide's not bad, but probably doesn't cover as much ground.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the websites, Fishes of Australia.
Yeah, that's getting better and better.
Just like that's got to, unless you're just perusing for fun, if you're trying to figure something out, that'd be the go-to, I'd recommend.
Are they starting to crowdsource some of the images and information? Are they, because from what I understand, like RedMap, and there's a few of these sort of collaborative software efforts, the government's slowly getting better at some of this shit. Government's terrible at everything in general. So I can see why you want to work there. It's a gravy train.
Yeah.
But
well paid.
Yeah. but like harnessing the power of a crowd, like in terms of sourcing images for things like Fish ID, seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, RedMap's not bad. The other one's iNaturalist.
Yeah.
And I spend a fair bit of time on that.
Okay.
And there's a lot of your leading ichthyologists are on there. I might get something that I need confirmation of.
What was that name you said? Ichthyologist?
Ichthyologist.
Ichthyologist, and that's a
fish.
That's a fish specialist.
Yeah.
And purely about identification, or?
Yeah, pretty much taxonomy generally.
Okay.
Yeah. But most of the museum curators and a lot of the leading ichthyologists are on that.
Okay.
I probably up until a few years ago, I'd often send an email with 3 different people asking, "What's your opinion on this?"
Yeah.
And now I'm more likely to just put them on iNaturalist and tag a couple of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and just get them to have a look that way.
Another problem with a lot of these marine books and stuff is that if you're new to spearfishing, it's a terrible way to learn to ID species. Sometimes the fish are taken out of the water, sometimes they're illustrations. It doesn't capture body language, it doesn't capture movement, it doesn't capture loss of colour at depth and all the rest of it. What do you use, when a young new spearer approaches you, how do you point them in the direction of ID?
I think, the books and the websites you best start, and then if there's a species that you're particularly interested in, maybe go and have a look on YouTube. Someone's taken some underwater footage of it that'll give you an idea of its swimming patterns, its behaviour, and start to give you an insight.
No one's done that with my target species like the moorwong, painted sweet lips. No one seems to want to.
Lots of footage. You're just looking. You need to stop looking in the centre of the camera and onto the side.
Next to the red emperor that Daniel Mann's shooting.
Yeah, there is
one of my target species.
It's just off on the sand.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So they get this form, and it's a little bit like submitting a tax return. You lie every second or third line to make sure you boost that number up.
Yeah, make sure you've got 0 honour. You don't care about anyone else who's been before you.
Yeah.
And bullshit the whole thing.
Yeah. Is there a bit of that?
I bloody hope not.
Yeah.
I try really hard to sniff it out. You've got a witness. You've signed off on it that it occurred, that it's occurred as per the rules. You've got a witness to the catch. You've got a weighmaster, and you've got an independent witness to the weigh.
Okay.
So if it's curly, I'm going to pick up the phone.
Now you brought up an interesting point actually before we jumped on, and you said a record actually has to be beaten by a fairly significant margin.
For the smaller fish, 50 grams to be over. But if it's over, it'll then be recorded as an equal record.
Ah, okay.
So anything that's over the existing mark, you're absolutely eligible to claim. But if it's not 50 grams for the small stuff or 100 grams for the large stuff, then it won't be the outright record on its own.
Okay. This thing was yours. This 41 kilo. What's the record for cobia in Australia? Out of curiosity.
It's well in the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So despite it being 41 kilos,
No,
maybe a record.
Just a little one.
All right. It's probably not in my league anyway. As we mentioned, painted sweet lip, that's probably more my jam. So let's just say I shoot a 10.7 kilo painted sweet lip, best sweet lip in my life.
Yep.
I fill out the form. Who needs to be present again? Give me the...
So you need a weighmaster,
Yep.
and a witness to the weighing, and yourself at that point. And you need, unless it was a shore dive and you're solo, you need a witness to the catch.
Okay. And is it anything like IUSA where you need like length and girth measurements and all that?
Yep, absolutely. So you need a photo showing the scale of the fish with something for reference, preferably not just you holding it up. You know, the old boys used to just do it with a 6-inch boning knife. A felt knife on an esky. A lot of people take the time to take a photo of the length.
Yeah.
And of the girth.
Now we've got those big, stickers with
yeah,
the...
people got the bag mats and measuring boards and everything, so it's rare that I don't get a photo with like a tape or a scale in it already. But yeah, nice clear photos for ID, confirm the identification with someone.
You normally post that on a naturalist social media site and ID this please.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a big spear wound in it.
Yeah.
So everyone knows how sustainable we are.
Yep.
Yeah. That is kind of a fault with a lot of newer spearers. They're just not quite 100% sure on a species and they post it on social media. So I mean,
people hammer people, people get hammered for that a bit too much, but someone will post up being like, what species is this? And they'll get shut down pretty hard. And they might be like, but I knew it was in the right family. I knew it was a cod. I knew that it was a legal species because it wasn't the protected ones. Yeah. So they were working within the framework pretty well.
And if it's like at least 40 centimetres or even more, then generally you're probably legal. Anyway, I don't know what.
Yeah, look, I've done it. I shot something out here that I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know because it's still a species that hadn't been properly described.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then you can get a curly one. I see a couple in New Zealand at the moment, particularly with the rising sea temps. They're getting all sorts of stuff over there now that they never used to get. Are you seeing a bit of that around here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That that's a great example, that cobia of it. That's, I don't know, very periodically one will show up, but it's 600 k's south of where it should be.
Tell us about them. I heard there was a second shot.
Yeah, there was.
Who was the second shot?
Me.
What happened? I can't see any spear wounds in it. Were they?
Other side. Didn't punch through.
Oh, really?
Really, yeah.
Oh, it's a big, thick fish.
Yeah. And I was maybe a bit further away. It was probably bigger than I thought.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was a little smaller. I thought I was a bit closer. Didn't toggle out the other side, but yeah. We've been exploring some deep stuff. Mulloway over here are pretty elusive. We just don't got the river systems for their larval phase, so Shark Bay turns up a few, but generally there's something that the line fishermen do well on out in the deep water. But there's no headlands like the northern New South Wales and Queensland that hold schools. They're pretty rare. They're rare, so we were spending some time looking for them in some of that deeper stuff that the line fishermen chase them in. A few of us have been putting a couple of years into it, and we were on a spot looking for those, which panned out well later in the day. Tom and Sam, the other guys I was with, got a nice mullow age. But yeah, I did first drop on this spot, missed the mark a little bit, was out in the sand and got clouded by a heap of big kingies and Samson.
What an awful feeling.
Yeah, well, everyone passes up on the sandbows over here, but there's in retrospect, those yellow toe kingies were probably huge. But then they came waddling in from out the back, couldn't help myself.
You come off at the bottom like a puppy looking to shelter under you, or?
No, he came in mid-water. Like if I'd been up on top, up higher and not looking side on, you probably could have mistaken it for a shark, but he just came in and had a different gait.
Yeah, they move like crazy movement.
Yeah.
They were kind of clumsy almost, until you see them take off at speed and then you're like, oh.
Yeah. Then he gave me what for? Yeah.
I bet you that 41 kilos, jeepers, that would have buried you.
Yeah, I was lucky probably because I was off the bit of ground I was trying to go on, so there was nothing for him to brick me on.
Did you hold it off the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh, sand though, so.
Yeah, well, I think I did. I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
But he was good to me.
Constant tension, or?
Yeah, just big lazy circles.
Okay.
Fought him a long way up, got him up to this sort of touching the shooting line. and it was him and an arm about a second shot, at which point he found another gear and went back to the bottom, and then had to redo it all over again. But one of the boys threw me another gun, stuffed the shooting line between my teeth, loaded that, and put another one in him. And
Stack.
Yeah, that was that. It was good.
So was he quartering in towards you when you shot him? Was it
Quartering away.
okay?
Yeah.
So he came in for a look and then
He
went
come
long?
and I was probably wasting time trying to gauge how big it was.
Yeah.
And then he turned side on, and that would have been the moment. And then he just, I thought he would glide across me and give me a better look, but he started to quarter away, and I knew I had to hurry up.
And what's your rig for shooting? Like to take a fish like that, you got to even to get a decent grip on it. Like you need some punch power, particularly if you shot it a little bit further away than you thought you did.
Yeah, I just roll around with a 1400 conventional gun. One of Barry's reels on it.
Yeah.
Like most blokes over here.
Aussie reels.
Yeah. There's not a lot of rig lines in WA.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
Nah, they're almost frowned upon. Yeah, you'll cop a bit of grief if you put one on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked Barry today because I said to him, do you wear a belt reel, Barry? And he says, nah. And isn't that ironic, you know? But I said, oh, well, what do you do when you shoot a big wahoo then and you're at the back end of your reel? And like that thing must have taken all your line. And then, so like often in Queensland, we'll have as you know, you'll have a float and a rig line set up, even if you're diving reel guns. So you can throw it over and then hitch on and you don't have to worry so much. You've got another 30 or whatever meters of play. So, but over here, it doesn't sound typical. They don't do that.
Nah, Barry's pretty, he's light. I've watched him like aquaplane behind wahoo pretty well. Yeah, he'll get up and skip. I don't. Yeah, I'm more prone to rip him off because there's a certain point where I'm a bigger object to tow around.
There's a niche market here then, because if you had freediving fins that could kind of double as water skis, like
Just get them and go.
Yeah.
No, for the little fellas, maybe not you and me.
No, that's another story. But had to take a fair bit to get me out of the water, I think. Having said that, being towed through the water is a fair bit of fun. But the problem with these fish is, like you said, they go down. Yeah. And then they try and bury you in structure, and some fish are unique for that. So you got it up, you got your second shot in. How soon after that? How long was the fight in total?
Oh, you'd be better off asking one of the other guys. It felt long and it felt short, but I don't know, maybe it was 10 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, got it sorted pretty quickly, and got a nice second shot in that pulled things up pretty quickly.
Yeah, nice.
And
And eating qualities of a big cobia like this?
Mate, that was amazing. I've still got some blocks of it now, but the belly meat off it was like, it's probably the most marbled fish I've ever had.
Yeah, right.
I haven't shot any big southern bluefin, but I've inherited a few gifts off mates who've come back with them, and they're pretty fatty, but it was like bacon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, wicked. I'm partial to fatty fish. I don't mind them. Some people don't like it though. It does seem to be like a palate thing.
Yeah.
When you think about characteristics of a fish's eating qualities, like, are you like oily, fatty, dry? Like, how do you sort of think about it? Because the Japanese have added that umami that I still barely understand, but I enjoy nevertheless.
Yeah. But can you identify it?
Not really. Like, I tried to pass it off from one of my workmates the other day with a giant seaweed sheet, but he was not having a bar of it. So, so high on fat though, these ones?
Yeah.
And anything else?
Well, it's definitely not dry because of how fatty it was. And cobia is just, it's a good in-between fish, you know, it's somewhere between your demersals and your mackerel, sort of. It's got a different quality again.
But like, based on the mouth too, like they're eating off the bottom a lot, you have to imagine?
Yeah, crabs.
Yeah, so good diet.
Oh, yeah, they're on the really good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. One of the guys chopped one up last year, a 30 kilo one, and I think it had 14 blue swimmer crabs in it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That one must have had a few in it, but 41 kilo. Was it fat?
It had what looked like a King George whiting.
Okay.
And that was it.
Decomposed, like.
Yeah, you weren't going to eat it.
Yeah, far. It's funny what you pull out of the guts of fish sometimes. So, like cooking, how do you cook them? So, being fatty, I'd imagine it'd go all right, maybe on the smoker as well.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I haven't smoked any of that one. I've smoked Kobe before. Really nice and hot smoker. Yeah, did quite a bit of ceviche with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, great. Yeah, American mate who lives over here from Florida.
Captain?
Yeah, he's a captain. He put us onto that years ago.
Yeah.
They really like it. You know, capsicum, just your full mix of salad stuff, all in with the lime juice.
Nice.
Did this Kokoda, the Fijian version, where you put the
Like
coconut milk
Ikamata, yeah.
on at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
I like it too, yeah. You tend to need to sit it, unlike a lot of ceviche, you want to eat within sort of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The coconut milk, you can leave it overnight, it seems to get better.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm making it in quantities where I'm eating it for a couple of days. Yeah.
I didn't see a submission for the 99 spare recipes from you. I'd imagine you'd have a couple of good recipes.
I'm pretty amateur when it comes to the food stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a crack. I enjoy playing around.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put myself in the realm where I should be sending anyone a recipe.
Yeah, it's a time and creativity thing too, isn't it? It's another thing to master.
Yeah.
Like spearfishing's got so many different parts of it. Obviously, like you're heading to the interpacks, so I think you're going to be quite competitive over there. Years in the water. What's your approach? How much scouting time have you got? And have you started working out a strategy?
Yeah, there's a fair bit to see what the bottom's like there. The island we're going to, there's no fringing reef, so it could be all fairly steep.
Atolls, like drop-offs?
Yeah, it's quite volcanic, so, it looks like it might shear away. I don't know where the sand line will be, whether that's 15 metres or 30 metres. And that'll just dictate how much that steps out, how much coral there is. That'll change our plan a fair bit. But we've got 6 days before the comp to have a look around and get a handle on it. So.
Yeah, wow. Pelagic species are so hit and miss. Like it's like with a comp, like it's not like you've got 8 hours to drift around and lay out a whole bunch of stuff. It's like I guess it's making the most of reef species first, and then sort of fringing on the drop off, and then hopefully pelagics come in and you take some opportunities as they come. Or?
Yeah, I think we'll probably treat them as incidental. You'll do the things to give yourself the opportunity, but yeah, the demersal species will water win or lose it.
Yeah.
Depending on which country's hosting it, they set the score sheet.
Okay. So I didn't even realise that. Wow.
Yeah. So when Australia holds it in Eden, they've got a specific list of species that are in that area, but also that the local people like to eat. The Tahitians will have all the surgeonfish and unicorns on, which traditionally every Australian would just look at and roll their eyes.
I love surgeons.
But they it's one of their favourites. So
what's it like in WA? Do people like them over here?
I've met one guy here that eats them.
Yeah, just sawtail.
We haven't got sawtail.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I forget. I'd have to go look in the book. There's a large, predominantly black species we get up in the northwest. He reckoned that's great. I haven't got around to trying it. But, we're often really spoilt with what you can take home.
Yeah.
So, you're not looking for an extra.
Yeah, I understand. And Spearos, I think sometimes because we have such an abundance of choice, like some of the species that other people may like, we're just kind of a bit dismissive, like, it's not in my wheelhouse, I don't know how to cook it, I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just gonna go for what I always go for, a big boarding.
Where's that boarding?
How do you cook boarding, by the way, and hunting? Well, I mean, are they a difficult species to hunt? Is it find them and then?
Boardies are good because they show up up on for the local reefs, not only on the edges but up on top of the weedy stuff where nothing else is. You can cover enough ground and you just come across one.
Are they on schools, single?
Mainly singles. You might get a few of them loosely aggregated, but they're not a schooling fish.
Do they hang out in threes, where you've got a breeding pair and then another one that maybe takes the place of one? Or?
Nah, not I don't think they're not like some of those wrasfish or parrots that have really tight groups.
Yep.
I think they're just spread out across that reef.
Okay.
But once you find them, think of your experiences with Tuskies.
Yeah.
But dumber.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Love dumb fish.
Yep.
They taste better too.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah, it's like the dumber they are, the better they taste sometimes. Hence why I like the netted sweet lip. They smoke up well, by the way. I don't know if it's because they're so oily, but I smoked up coral trout next to one the other day, and the sweet lip was better.
Better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, I guess, like the right cooking technique for the right species. Okay, cool. Boating.
Yeah.
You've done a fair bit of boating.
Yeah.
Tell me about a boating fail where you learned something.
Yeah, best boating fail was out with mate Kane and another mate from the east coast, Declan. We're camping on an island up in the northwest, pretty remote. Doing an extended stay up there. We knew the forecast wasn't going to be great the next day, and we left the boat anchored, in retrospect, on the wrong side of the island. Wind was up the next morning, you know, we all sort of took off here and there.
Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, you're right.
Someone did it, thank you. I didn't even double check my recording software. It was, that's typical noob Spearo quality. Sorry about that, mate. Interrupted a good story there, sorry about that.
No, not at all. But yeah, we woke up and yeah, he went for a walk, we checked the boat, I got back in my swag because it was blowing too much to go diving. And then the wind picked up. The next thing I know, I was getting my swag kicked and the boat had ended up on the beach.
Ooh.
On shore, it was getting pounded pretty hard. Yeah, filling with sand, filling with water. Yeah, it wasn't ideal. We'd set what we thought was a pretty good mooring system with twin anchors, sort of out on 45s. And what had happened was one of them had pulled, and once the first one pulled, it slid across and fouled into the second one.
Oh, wow.
And then that was it.
All right.
Went straight up the beach. Took a few goes. In some pretty sort of heavy shore break. The boat was filling with water, filling with sand.
Clearing sand out of a bilge pump too is a bit of a...
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The bilge pumps weren't keeping up. It was buckets and fish bins and flat out. And we had one crack and gave up. And we were, you know, even went and sat on the beach for a second and thought, what are we going to do here? Wait for a tide, figure it out.
So I'll just get you close to the mic.
Yeah, right. But yeah, went around and had another go. And eventually got it off the beach. Yeah, prop essentially chewing sand. Got around the other side. I don't know, I reckon we probably pulled 200 kilos of sand out of that boat.
Holy moly.
Heap of salt water in the fuel system.
So any lessons learned, or what would you do differently in hindsight?
Never run a twin anchor mooring system again.
Everyone talks about like, you know, length of chain and rope and stuff. Have you guys got any rules of thumb for that?
Lots. Yeah, just like, that's different when you're setting up and taking a mooring, because you're budgeting on it and you're carting it and then dropping it off. But just the biggest anchor and biggest, heaviest chain that you can justify taking. But look, we could have avoided that. We knew the forecast. We could have moved it to the other side, but we were probably a bit smart for our own good. Thought that we had it covered.
Sometimes when you're coming off those reef systems, like I've been camping on one overnight, like you'd know it, Southern Great Barrier area, and then you're coming out of the reef to avoid the squall or the storm that's rolling in, and Spearos and even line fishermen, we've got the shittest anchor lights, and I don't know why. It's like the one that matters too, and like you can't even see them, particularly when you've got like up and down seas, and they look like they're further away than they are, and like moving at night time in just a normal Spearo boat is a nightmare. Particularly if you've got a lot of boat traffic around. I don't know what it's like around here, but...
Nah, we're pretty lucky. We don't have, there's not much boat traffic, particularly if you're in the good spots. Yeah, the less the better. But I always ran a pretty good sized solar anchor light on my boat, mainly just so that you can stick your head out of your swag. You go, oh yeah, still there, good. Go back to sleep for another hour and check it again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
A nervous night's sleep when you're the skipper, when you're the captain. So there's a bit of a gag there for everyone. The other thing I really wanted to pester you about was tagging. We had a little bit of a brief chat, like you told me you tagged something interesting last week.
Yeah.
So you've tagged everything, you said, from tiny seahorses.
Yeah.
Maybe not seahorses, but you said you like every spectrum, like from your large mammals, like
Yeah, I've been
sharks.
really lucky through work. Spent a lot of years doing a lot of lobster research, so there's a mountain of spaghetti tags out there that I did, and then lucky enough to end up, we did a humpback whale program that ran for 4 years, I think.
They're becoming less and less popular now.
Yeah,
Due to
well,
the numbers, like exploding numbers.
Well, the numbers were the reason. Yeah, that kicked off because they were starting to entangle in crayfishing gear more and more, and as sort of part of their fishery, they've got to be mitigating the amount of entanglement and negative interaction they're having. So we did some sat tagging to look at pathways up and down the coast and how that would feed into regulations and gear, and it actually worked really well in the long term. They've reduced their entanglement rate.
Okay.
Yeah, quite loads. But
So that's
done it so well that I don't have to shoot any more up. So.
Oh wow, that'd be awful.
But yeah, it was a good gig. Run around on the front of the boat with a big gas gun and a satellite tag.
Oh, so you're not in the water with them? You're doing it off the boat?
Nah, they won't let you get in. There's certain risk assessments that one just doesn't fly.
I can't imagine you being real popular with a family of humpbacks when you shoot one with a tag.
It's funny, hey? They barely notice at times. Half of them, you put a 12-inch stainless tag into one with a little aerial off the back, and half of them don't even realise they've been shot. But then if you hit them with a biopsy little dart, it seems to ripple more on their skin,
Okay.
and that'll make them flick and kick.
So they don't have a lot of nerves, you think? I mean,
That's that's an explanation I've been given, is that their nerve endings are more spaced out.
yeah.
And so therefore you're less likely to be hitting one as it goes in.
How do they defend themselves against great whites? Because like, there's that old chestnut that, great whites will follow the migration and stuff and pick off the weak and the calves, but yeah.
I don't think the whites, from my take on it, I don't think the whites ever actively attack them.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been on an entangled one with my head over the side trying to sort out the entanglement and had a good sized white roll in and come and have a look. And this humpback's, it's anchored by a head of big octopus gear. If you're a white, it's as easy a shot as you get.
Yeah.
Still too much risk. It did 5 minutes elapse.
Yeah.
And just kept going.
A lot of people aren't aware of how risk averse big sharks are. Like, with tagging them, is that hard?
Well, yeah, it's a different thing again. They, using baited drums, you hook them up and wear them out. I've been, fortunate enough to help those guys out a bit. And then, get them alongside, rope them up and turn them over so they become passive. And then, they're running surgical acoustic tags and then pop off satellite tags. And then, cut them free after that.
Far out. So what's the survival rate? Like if you get a big shark and they go nuts for a prolonged period of time, do they overheat? Are they at risk of not surviving? Like a lot of catch and release species.
I think they're pretty right. Mainly, you're not getting barotrauma, which is that's the biggest post-release mortality issue. And those guys are really mindful of. You don't want to be working on that animal when it's too green, but you want to be working on it as soon as possible, just to minimise fatigue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're pretty resilient. They're pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're a big, scary animal. Have you been in the water much with big sharks?
I've seen one white in the water, locally off here, when we've been diving, but that's it for whites. All the others, like loads of big tigers, but they're generally pretty friendly.
In Sydney recently, I did a live interview down there, and their spearfishing community's been dramatically affected by that ocean swimmer that, there's no doubt about it, he got eaten alive. It wasn't a mistaken identity. That shark came back and proper ate him. It's really dramatically affected spearfishing there. A lot of new people have just all of a sudden found another hobby, which is understandable. With the recent attack here, how do the ripples work in this sort of part of the world? How does it affect the community, and what's your sort of feel on the situation over here?
I think the dive community's maybe a little more accepting of it these days. We had a big run of attacks, like white attacks, maybe 8 years ago, and that made big ripples. Lots of people got out of scuba diving, lots of people backed off on their spearfishing, and it slowly sort of trickled back in. But yeah, we've had some pretty unfortunate ones in the last few years. But people seem to be, within the more keen spearo community, more accepting of the risk. Yeah.
Given the close nature of this poor bugger up north getting attacked by the bull shark, I'm a little wary to talk mitigation strategies. However, it does you can't really talk about it without talking about mitigating the risk. What's your guys' process diving different parts of WA and encountering different species? Have you got rules of thumb? Have you got systems that you follow in order to make sure you don't get attacked by sharks or to minimise that chance?
Not a huge amount, to be fair. If the visibility is really poor and we're seeing really aggressive sharks, we just pull the pin and move on. But generally push the envelope pretty hard in most places.
Okay.
Yeah, unless something's giving you that behaviour that you think, nah, this is probably not worth it. Yeah.
So, for a lot of experienced spearos, it sounds like just bread and butter stuff. But talk about some of those warning signs then.
Oh, like swimming around a lot more erratically, fins down, making runs at you as a diver. Yeah, it's all dependent on the scenario. Like I've had a couple of ones which could have gone pretty wrong. One we didn't realise at the time, but we were near an old whale jawbone. It was still a bit fluffy out the Abrolhos.
Wow.
But we were swimming through an inner lagoon and I had a black tip come roaring in and just hit the end of the gun straight away and go absolutely bananas. And didn't understand why until half an hour later. We found there was probably a bit of scent coming off this jawbone that had created that.
So you're a proponent of this idea that sharks have modes of behaviour, and sometimes when they're on the food pathway, that all of a sudden everything becomes a target, or they're more aggressive.
Yeah, I think there's just different levels of aggression. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to read where they're at and how many of them there are, and what if you've got a lot of big aggressive sharks, I'm not going to be shooting a fish in front of me unless it's
a 41 kg cobia.
Yeah. Yeah, the risk reward.
Yeah, dispatching fish, I think, really quickly, like most spearos know it. You pull them in, you dispatch them as quickly as possible, like never let them kick around. Like, a lot of people still hear that old chestnut, like, sharks can smell like one mil of blood in an Olympic swimming pool, and we all know that it's movement that draws them more than blood.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more worried about the fish that's shaking around, creating attention.
Do you use any shark deterrent devices, or do you have any beliefs that you would share about any of them on the podcast? As a fisheries officer and a captain?
Research. I'm a fisheries officer.
Well, you work for a fisheries researcher,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, I've worn the shark shields a lot over the years for work scuba. I've never figured out how to swim well with them on. I get zapped.
Did you try flexing them down the end channel of your fin?
No, because I want to use that fin without one later. Yeah, you could, you could cable tie it or sticker it or all those different options, but yeah.
Makes you popular with dive buddies too.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no, I just don't enjoy the zap.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I lived somewhere in far southern Australia with a large white population, if I was going to be in the water regular, I'd be wearing one.
Yeah, right.
But for spearfishing, even around here,
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, good. Scary stuff. I know you had maybe a cave story to share.
Yeah.
Can I get you to move in on the mic again a little bit? Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, a couple of years ago we were diving. We get a really good run a craze, sort of November, December, Whites run, and really abundant. Everyone gets out there, gets their craze for Christmas, loads up, freezers suddenly get full, there's pots everywhere, the boat ramps are mayhem. And it's demersal closure, so there's nothing else to do, so everyone just goes ham on the craze. So we were just doing that. A couple of mates had flown back in from up north who were FIFO, and we were just itching to go get a feed. The weather wasn't particularly great, but I had my boat, took it in, ran out the front of work, and we went and dived a few spots, and I had a cave that's, we always knew it was potentially probably a bit dangerous, that I'd been diving for a while. It's like into the top of the reef, had a little opening, maybe the size of a wheelie bin, bit of weed that washes back over the top of it so you can barely tell it's there. And then it goes and opens up into 2 big rooms and has a tunnel that shoots off, sort of pops out in a gutter 15 metres away one side, and you can run around a corner and into this other big room, and yeah, it's...
Sounds awesome.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like an awesome bit of structure.
Yeah, it's but it's really common for this part of the world to have big hollow limestone country, but this was particularly big and just out front and local. But I was aware that when you went around the corner into one of these, you get obscured from absolutely any light source coming back, and there's room to maybe get disorientated in there. And we talked about it that day because those guys hadn't dove it before, and I explained the layout to them and where it was. And we dove it a few times, got a few crays, went over, got some other stuff, and then came back towards the boat, and we're doing a few last dives on it. And just the 3 of us breathing up one at a time, going in. And one of the guys went in, and he, look, good diver, great breath hold on him, really confident. Hadn't been in there overly long, and a few bubbles filtered up through the top of the reef. And something in my head, having originally sort of started out diving on the east coast, was like, oh, he's probably just kicked it and blown a bit of a pocket off the roof.
Yeah.
But we've got limestone, that doesn't happen. It's just porous, it goes straight through. And I looked at the other guy, and he looked at me, and sort of exchanged a glance and thought about it. And then 5 metres further away in the reef, some more bubbles came through. We thought, oh, this isn't great. And the guy on the surface next to me took a dive and headed straight for the opening off the top of the cave, and probably 15 metres off on an angle where there's a bit of an edge of a reef. The guy who was in there popped out where I didn't think you could get out.
Shit.
And turns out he couldn't, because he popped out to his waist and wedged, and we could see from the surface as he stuck that he was out. So he was fully blacked out on the bottom. So things weren't going well at this point. The guy had just dove down, peeled off and veered over to him. Got to him, tried to pull him out, couldn't budge him. By that stage I got up over on top of him and was just starting to dive down. And as I got there, he just pinched his nose and blew a breath into him, which is, that's not in any manual. But yeah, I sort of, oh, well, fair enough, you know, we'll figure it out from here. And got down to him and managed to, you know how awkward your fins are to get your feet flat on the ground. Sort of swung my feet around, got them flat behind him, and got my arms in under his armpits. And yeah, just got him out of the hole. I think he was a bit bruised up and ripped wetsuit and worse for wear for it.
But he made it to the surface.
Yeah, well, I got him to the surface, yeah. Well, just before I did it, I realised I was still carting like a bag full of crays and diving hooks and all sorts of crap. Just like, we don't need these right now.
Yeah.
Drop them. But yeah, got him to the top. Fortunately, the boat was probably only like 50 metres away. Wind was fairly howling, popped his mask off. Was just sort of about to say, you know, like, we better blow across his face to wake him up, and I realised 25 knots southerly's probably going to do that.
Yeah. But saying their name can still have a bit of a benefit too.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit hazy on that. I imagine I was talking to him at the time.
Yeah.
As we got closer to the boat, so all right, well, you know, I'll get in the boat, you pass him up to me, boat's bouncing away, thinking this isn't going to go well. At which point he came round.
Ah, wicked.
Yeah. Yep. You know, not much memory of anything. We obviously looked pretty white-faced because the first thing was an apology. But yeah, good enough to get himself in the boat. Did a night in hospital, salt water on the lung, not badly, but they just keep you in for obs and for secondary drowning.
How do they treat it? Is there anything they do to you with secondary drowning?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think if you develop it, there's things, but they're more worried about if there's salt water in there. You can, I don't know medically why it happens, but you can sort of foam up and then stop oxygen absorption. But yeah, he came out of it all good in the end, but made me question, like I'd been diving that cave a lot for a while, made me have a little rethink about what my risk level was and what was all good.
Some good takeaways out of it though. Like obviously, like you weren't diving solo. He wasn't diving solo for a start. You had a system going. There was timing going on. It was coordinated. So you can get away with a high level of risk because you're following that. It's helping you to sort of minimise that. What else? Torches?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What made him get disoriented? Did you ever work it out?
Not properly, because his memory's so hazy. We know he did get a fin wedged between a rock. He remembers that and thinking, oh, I'll just turn around and just pop this fin off and put it back on again. And not him remembering not being like overly concerned about that. And then I think there was just a series of things that didn't go right, to the point where instead of looking for where he came from, he saw one shaft of light and was like, oh, I'm going out of that. But, you know, I'm happy he did, because if he tried to go back the other way and got it wrong, it would have taken us multiple dives to get him out. I think it would have probably ended much differently.
Yeah. Was there a lot of sediment in the cave?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. There's room. You know, you've got to move carefully. And, yeah.
Something like with scuba diving, a lot of spearers have never been scuba divers, but if you've done scuba diving, you've done wreck diving specifically, you learn all about really bad interactions with sediment. Because if it all goes up and you haven't got a line, you're not following a line, it's very easy to get disoriented and you're done. And it's happened to lots of very smart, very capable people. So, and we're not diving into caves with a line. But any other sort of, has anything changed in the way you guys dive caves as a result of that?
Just probably pulled it back a notch, to be honest. Yeah, just about keeping it well within your limits. I guess it's hard, you know, you're always trying to understand what our own limits are. Some of us find them, I prefer not to. Yeah. But yeah, it's just craze, not that important, are they?
Nah, but wow, that's a heavy one, but a good outcome.
Yeah, it's a great outcome. Yeah.
Have you yourself been wedged in a cave before? To the point of where you get that panic moment? I've had it a few times and it's just like...
I haven't really had the panic. I was pretty lucky. I started out, worked scuba diving, and like scuba fish collecting, and touch wood, I'm really comfortable in the water. Get that panicky feel. But yeah, one of the guys I cray dive with a bit is in the crowd. We've been known to know that there's a tunnel that you can go in and get crays out of, but you'll need help to get back out. So the plan is, you know, like, give me 45 seconds and come get me.
Yeah. A lot of cray diving is just bomb diving, isn't it? Like, you're not holding hectic bottom time, you're working hard, and sometimes it's shorter surface intervals and a lot of shallow diving.
Yeah.
When you're diving a system of 3 for crays, do you guys have do you just sort of one after the other scouting until you find a decent bit of structure with holding crays, and then you sort of have turns that go?
Yeah, often, particularly with the shallow crays, unless you're going into really deep caves, you're just moving as a group, and someone will go down, scout, and if they've got enough breath, they might lose that cray, or if they see some off to a side, they'll pop up and, you know, do some hand signals in that way over to the right. You'll find them.
A lot of old school divers still like love diving solo. This is another real massive benefit of diving in a team. Not only do you get rescued if you black out, but it makes for more effective like fishing too.
Yeah, I think once you build up that understanding and partnership with someone, I think jumping in with someone new that you mightn't have that chemistry with, you can go, gee, I just prefer to be on my own right now.
Yeah.
You're a bit of a hassle. And I've been guilty of that.
Yeah.
Like, also, at times, particularly if we're doing shallow stuff, we'll knowingly just motor off on our own to cover a bit of ground.
So there's a big conundrum there, because obviously we've got a lot of, there's always a lot of inexperienced divers that are in position to dive with, and they don't know that. But when you've been going a while, diving with new divers is a gift, so how do you work that out? How do you give your time to them, and how do you structure it so you're still having fun? Do you allow the club and instructors to help shape them? How do you help people through this difficult journey of...
That's probably why spearfishing can be regarded as a bit cliquey.
Yeah.
Because people get limited days off. We've all got busy lives, and when you go, if you can do it with your established mates who know how you dive and you know how they dive, you're probably going to have a better day.
Yeah.
Just more enjoyable, and it can be a bit selfish that way. A lot of the old timers seem to later on get a lot more generous with their time about bringing people through, which is good. Or as soon as they get to that age where they've got, seems to pivot for a lot of the people that have got to the point where their kids are starting to dive.
Yeah. Becomes more about helping other people rather than just the pure pursuit of
the objective of the day changes a lot, and suddenly their diving changes a lot, and I probably haven't helped them be out for a little while lately.
Yeah. This is just about guilting you out.
Yeah.
And getting you along. I'm sure they'd love to have the presence of Captain Vin Rushworth down there at the club, taking some noobs out. That'd be good. Awesome. Funny stuff. You've got an established group of dive buddies. You're a bit of a cheeky bloke yourself. I'm sure you've had some funny times out.
You like a poo yarn.
I do.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it too now.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm 40 now, and I'm still doing the same.
It's classic material.
It is.
Yeah. One of the older blokes around the club that he lives out of town now. I used to dive with him a bit more, but there was a few of us that were diving pretty regularly. And in proper sort of WA fashion, you'd anchor up on a bit of reef, and everyone would drift out the back in the current to be working. Not a huge area, but everyone's down current of the boat. And so whenever anyone felt the urge to go, they'd make the habit of swimming up current, getting on the boat, and then releasing a school of brown blind mullet, and then just seeing if you could score a direct hit.
That's like advanced battleship. Remember that old board game we used to play?
Yeah.
Wow, I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I never witnessed a really good direct hit, but I saw one that was within an inch of the mast. a lot of reeling back out of the way.
Oh, wow. That's unique to Spearos too. Everyone loves a good poo story out in the water. There's something funny about it.
You got to go.
Yeah, cool. Talk about your spearing these days. So you're a dad now, you're flat out getting out at all between work and family, but you're going to this comp. For you, going out having a fun day's diving, what does that look like? What are you targeting? Are you always trying to target new stuff, try different techniques, or is it a mix of just...
Leading up to this comp, it's just an emphasis of getting in the water and just being dive fit, happy to get some good bottom times and depths, and just happy to be out. The fish are really less than an objective. But outside of this little period, then it's about finding the time to do a mission to the most remote place to find the fish that you wouldn't find anywhere else. And it more being about, it's as much about the diving as it is about the trip. About doing something out of the ordinary. Whether that's getting to some island and camping out for 3 nights and trying to dive spots that you think no one else has ever dived, or hopefully not too many people.
We were talking, I've been laughing with a few people from WA like I dived a comp in Bundy the other day from Brisbane. It was a 4-hour drive and then a 4-hour comp and then a 4-hour drive back. And a lot of the people there thought I was mad. But in WA, a 4-hour drive was just like, oh, that's just down the road, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a bit of a view on
It's probably the strongest trait of the Perth dive community is it's nothing for people to go and do a 400k run north for a day trip and turn around and be home that night.
What about trips south? Is that common as well?
Some people do it. Yeah, there's our south coast is really good, but there's a much higher number of white sharks, which puts a lot of people off. And we don't have a huge species diversity.
Okay.
Yeah, like I guess compared to your part of the world, where it's very straightforward. If you're out here, the primary targets for most people are jewfish, bullchin, pink snapper. There's some yellowtail kingies floating around. Most people pass up on Samson fish.
Why?
They're probably not as good eating as the yellowtail kingies.
Is it a cooking thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're totally acceptable.
Over our way, like, I don't know if you remember, but the ones I've shot, the smaller ones, I haven't seen the big ones, although I think we've got the record just north of me in the Sunshine Coast. They're often full of worms.
Yeah, all big cereals can be pretty wormy. And you get that mushy flesh. They get that.
I hadn't had one until I was diving coughs recently, but a mushy fish, like you can still eat them sashimi and ceviche, but this thing was awful.
Well, not ceviche. I found that out in the hard way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even the ceviche.
Yeah, I did a yellowtail kingi up once, and the lime juice just turned the bowl into like the wood.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we had people coming over. It was a real fart.
That sucks.
Yep.
Did you Captain Vin Rushworth? They expect to spread. I'm getting you. I'm only a joke. And I love to just murder a joke too. It's not just dead.
Oh, you got me between the eyes. I gave you the material and you took it.
That's why we do a pre-interview chat.
Yeah.
Cool. So for you though, any species on the hit list this year? What are you most looking forward to potentially hunting while you're overseas?
If there's any one particular species I'm excited about over there, I think we should have seen pretty
Dog
well.
tooth, if you're hunting on these drop-offs?
Yeah, for sure. They're probably not going to be much of a target during the comp, but I did look at the chart and find a few little anomalies that I wouldn't mind getting a day off to go and have a look at. I've shot a few okay doggies, but nothing big, so I'd like to do one day.
What's your biggest doggie? Oh, cool. So it's a good opportunity on this trip, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see.
It seems to involve persistent time and effort, even when you are in the right neck of the woods. Though, again, this is coming from a person who's never shot them, never even been.
Yeah, and time of year. Like I've been fortunate enough to be on. Like WA doesn't have many dogtooth. They're only on a couple of offshore, really remote reefs. They don't pop up on the mainland coast like they do over east. We don't have that inner reef system. But yeah, I've been working, seen some really great ones, and not been able to touch them. So that's.
Taxidermy. We were talking about Mick McDade earlier about fish casting, but as I understand it, you have spent a bit of time sort of taking a fish's skull and breaking it down, bleaching it, gluing it back together. Walk me through that process if you can, because I've never done it, and I think I'd like to. Like when you shoot a big special fish, like something like what Derek does here, is a magical way to capture it forever. Photos are good, but it's kind of like what everyone does and what we all do.
Yeah.
Doing something extra special seems like a really cool thing you can do with a special catch. How do you do the skulls and stuff?
Firstly, you need the right partner that'll allow you to put a fish skull up at home.
Wow, that's a big ask.
Well, my wife's pretty good to me. She tolerates a lot of my, how she put it, collecting shit from the sea.
Are you relegated to a man cave, or have you got it all over the house?
No, I've got a fair bit of it in the shed and a little bit in the cabinet.
Yeah.
I try and keep it minimal. But yeah, I've got a Gaitaku up here and there, and these are much more palatable partners because they're quite artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like, you need the right species to make it worthwhile to do the skulls or the jaws. You know, mackerel, pink snapper, mangrove jack, stuff with impressive chompers is always good.
Yeah.
There's two levels of doing it. There's the backyard job, and then...
Give me the backyard, that's as far as I know.
I'll pick the brains of some of the guys that do it to a museum level,
Yeah.
and they'll use a lot more chemical.
Okay.
And
What different types of chemicals, like
Yeah.
prolonged process?
Yeah.
Like different steps, more elaborate steps?
Similar steps, they're often just doing it, through... They'll use different chemical instead of, you know, like... Best way to start is boil it.
Okay.
Boil it really lightly, do it outside because it'll stink the house out. You don't want to overdo it. You can bake the head too. If you wanted to do it museum grade, you're not going to apply any heat because you don't want to degrade the bone. But if you get a pot and start boiling that head and then start taking photos as it's coming apart.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a big puzzle at the end. And depending on how good your anatomy is, that's what will bring you undone. But yeah.
Oh, wow. I remember this page on Facebook called Crap Taxidermy, and these, like, it was just the awfulest shit you've ever seen. Like, it could not even resemble the animals that they were trying to honour. I can see some of my creations already looking like that afterwards. Maybe take extra photos. But yeah.
How
many bits are there? Like, let's just take a Spanish, for example. Is that one you've done a lot of?
I've only got to doing Spanish jaws.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think nice pinky skull was like 28 pieces. Yeah.
That's more things than I can do in an old school puzzle, let alone a three-dimensional one.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, like, they're not too bad. If you take enough pics as you go, you'll be right. But you want to put in the minimal amount of heat you need to. Toothbrush, scrubbing brush, start as that flesh cooks, pulling it apart, getting all the individual bones, and then get them aside, get them as cleaned up as you can.
Silly question, do you number them or do you lay them in a particular order or?
I'll lay them out later, but like, your next point is that you've got to try and degrease them.
Okay.
So if you get them all tidied up and then out, and then initially it was recommended to me to use, I forget which way I think it's Dawn over here, or Fairy dish soap.
Fairy dish soap?
Yeah, it's really mild. They use it for shorebird cleanups, and then do a long soak. So it's like real hot soapy water into a bucket with a lid so there's no light, and then you're trying to eliminate all of the oil in those bones.
Okay.
So you just keep changing that until the water stays clear and not scummy.
Okay.
I don't know, I've had stuff in there for like 2 months.
Wow.
Maybe changing it once a week.
This is the benefit of stock too, isn't it, really? Like, that stuff that leaks out of the bones is the good stuff. It's like really good for your stomach and digestive tract.
Some people will do it with acetone and do it and get it done much quicker. One of the museum guys suggested using unleaded.
Oh, wow.
I did that on a marlin bill, it worked really well. I don't know how gentle it'd be on some of the finer bones, but next time I get around to it, I'll probably give that a go. Okay. But it's really important. You'll see a lot of people's ones later, maybe 6 months later, they yellow off. Okay. That oil starts to leach out. They don't look white like they want them to. And it's just because they didn't take enough time degreasing. So have the patience to just keep swapping the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've boiled it down slowly. We've cleaned it up with a toothbrush and a scrubbing brush. We've soaked it in the fairy liquid with the hot water repeatedly. We've got no scum left in the water. Where to next?
Pull them out, lay them on a tray and dry them out. Get as much moisture as you can out of them. Okay. And then it's peroxide.
Okay, hydrogen peroxide, like from a chemist?
Best way to do it is to go and get it from a pool shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll sell it at a higher concentration and a much cheaper price.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what, soaking it in it for a specific period of time, or are you brushing it on? Or?
No, I'd soak it in it. Yeah, you'll get a higher concentration, so depending on how big wet you've got, you could cut it back maybe 50%. Okay. But put it in and then keep tabs on it. You're probably only going to need max a day. Okay. But some of those real light gill plate bones, the really thin ones, if you leave them too long, they'll start to I'll start to go. They'll just dissolve away.
Just so brittle.
Yeah. So just as you're going, pulling them out when they look done. Good Sunday job. And you can periodically check on it.
Oh, so the more vulnerable or the more brittle, fragile type stuff, so do you lay it out so you can sort of see all of the things, or do you put the more vulnerable?
Just tip it all in a bucket.
Yeah.
Just tip it all in a little bucket and
Yeah.
then, put on a glove if you're going to be fishing around in peroxide. It's not hideous, but, it'll blench your fingers and make a mess and wreck your clothes. And
I used to do my hair like that when I was a young teenager.
Frosted tip guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, once you've got them all white to the point you're happy with,
Yep.
then back into a bucket of water
Yep.
to dilute that completely so that it stops working. Let that happen so probably overnight, and then pull it out and dry it out.
Okay.
Put it on a tray or a rack in the shed, give it a couple of days to dry out, and then get out your super glue and hot glue gun. And
So you don't apply any lacquer or?
you can spray it afterwards if you wanted to hit it with like a clear satin boat lacquer afterwards to try to seal it. You could for sure.
Yeah.
I've done that, seems to work well.
Okay.
But yeah, and then just once it's dry enough, assemble. You
Get
might
your
need a little
photos
bit of
out.
wire for the corners of a couple of major bits.
Because they don't fit back together like they sort of came apart in the first place.
Just those major joins, you either need a little bit of wire or you need a big blob of hot glue
Right.
just to get them to hold.
Any particular glue, like a hot glue gun type, that sort of stuff? Like,
Yeah, little hot glue gun's great for the bigger bits,
Yep.
and the rest of it, just super glue.
Cool.
And the super glue's quick.
Cool. I wish we had a photo of one of your better ones.
Yeah.
And maybe one of your shit ones would be funny too, actually. Can you send me a few and I'll put them in the show notes
Yeah,
so
sure.
people can have a look.
Yeah.
So it'll be noobspearo.com/Vin, and that'd be cool to have a bit of a look at some of the finished results. Have you got, I know you told me you also had a document of sort of your process for it. Was that this one?
Yeah, I've got some rough notes because a few people were asking me pretty regularly at one point there. So yeah, I've got some rough step-by-steps. I could probably improve it a lot with a bit that I've learned off the museum guys since, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, maybe we can link that up too if we have time.
Yep.
Between all your comps and children and job and all the other stuff, we'll just get that done too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rugged old life.
Yeah. And the other one I've done a bit of is doing crays or crustaceans, that's much more chemical intensive. That's just formalin, formaldehyde. You can get that off a bulk chemical supplier
Why are you using formaldehyde for it?
because you've got to cure the tissue, whatever's left inside it.
Yeah.
Some guys will flesh out a cray, like try and completely clean it up and reassemble it.
Mm.
But you can use it as a fixative and just do the whole animal.
Okay.
But yeah.
So you just soak it in it.
Yeah, you need a big hypodermic and inject it into
Oh, wow.
every corner and crack and bit that you can get at. But that's realistically, that stuff's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
You want a fume hood or a couple of big fans and some real exposed open area.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you done I remember seeing one of your crays on your Instagram. I think it was like 4.3 kilo or something. Is that your biggest?
Yeah, that one was 4.15.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I was trying to
touch wood. That's
Shut up.
still our state record for now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've heard they do grow a little bit bigger, but they're often caught out wider.
Yeah, they definitely get bigger. I know one fella that probably should have actually weighed his properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just took his record and screwed it up and threw it in the
Threw it
bin.
away. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we can't have them replacing Captain Vin Rushworth's record. How many records have you got? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not mountains, but I don't know what the number is. Yeah, there's a few. But, there's some stuff in there that other people probably wouldn't pick up just because...
They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
That little twin spot cod that you would have swum over
Yeah.
actually caught my eye. And, yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of having a knowledge of what's available.
Yeah.
So research is a big part of taking records?
Depends what you're aiming to achieve. Yeah, I don't think it is for most people. They're just out there to enjoy their day, and if they happen to get what they feel is an exceptional fish, they'll check it against the record book, and if it's worth claiming, they'll claim it.
Yeah.
Some people get right down the rabbit hole of wanting to collect them all.
Yeah, right. I've seen a few that have like had a couple of aggressive years, like where you see record after record, and then they just, you know, like life takes over and they have submitted one for a long time.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing, you know, people get different things out of diving.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Trevor's always on the lookout for every little parrot that he can get his hands on.
Oh, yeah. He mounts them too, like,
Yeah.
gets them fully done, cast and painted, and they can look really good if done well.
Yeah.
But yeah, after looking at Mick McDade's house too, like far out, that guy's, he's done a lot of stuff. I wanted to ask you two more sort of lots of questions, and then we'll go to an audience Q&A if that's cool.
Sure.
Someone will kill me if I don't ask you what your sort of day-to-day equipment is. Some people just froth on gear.
Yeah.
What is your sort of go-to dive gear from head to toe?
I've got some Carbonio GFT fins,
Yeah.
which I've been running for a few years. Yeah, they're really nice. I like them. I don't know, whatever, dive socks don't have too many holes in them.
I got sold a pair today, and they've got like a fleece lined into them. I put them on, I was like, oh, this is a little bit fancy.
I need to repair before I leave.
Yeah, check them out. I don't, it's not a shameless plug, I don't have nothing to do with them, but they're an Ocean Hunter one with a plush lining in them.
Yep.
And I put them on, I think I can spend 6 hours in them in the water, so I'm going to do that. One of the boys sold them to me. I think maybe he got a commission from them or something. Yeah. So dive socks, what about your suit?
Mainly just Barry's Aussie Real suits.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, like he's the local bloke. I like to support him. Baz has always been good to us over the years, so
Yeah.
run those. I do have a really nice smooth skin polo sub I just started using for winter with the piss tube, which
Yeah.
is a bit of a luxury.
Yeah.
I've been harassing the Aussie Real guys to start putting piss tubes on their suits just for a laugh.
Yeah. It's not widely adopted here. Like. It still seems like a European thing, but for those of us that have sat on long car trips with people that reek of urine, they all of a sudden take on a level of appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're definitely early adopters. I think give it a decade and yeah.
That'd be a good gift for your mates, actually, for Christmas too. That'd make their spouses laugh too.
One of the companies must sell like an iron-on one.
They do. They are up there, yeah. And you could make some nasty jokes with it too, I reckon. All right, so mask, snorkel.
Mares, it's like a XVU.
Yeah, just whatever fits.
Liquid skin.
Yeah. Snorkels, are you fussy with them?
Just a standard old sort of.
J snorkel?
Yeah.
No valve,
I
nothing?
think it's a Cressy, sometimes it's off-brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, every few years I'll chew the little lugs off and have to buy a new one. Well, actually, I've cut it and heated it and stuck the tube of another one on top to make it, you know, about 4 inches taller, just for those rough weather days, just to get the top of it just out of the chop a bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't affect use,
Not that I've
because there's a rule with it. I'm not quite sure on the physics of it, but they follow a formula with them, I believe, so.
Yeah, well, it's not as long as a garden hose or anything.
Yeah, which is what we all try when we were kids, yeah. Spear guns?
Just ones I put together myself. I used to make some guns for a
Timber?
while there. No,
Carbon?
yeah, carbon barrels, Maru handles, the old Italian ones. Tony used to have them on edge guns for a lot of years.
Yep.
So I've still got a whole heap of them rolling around. And yeah.
What sort of length, shaft, rubber combo are you going for this part of the world?
I've got 2 guns that go everywhere, 1400 with like extra long overhang.
Yeah.
Whatever what's standard?
400, 400, yeah?
Yeah, so
So
I'll have
500.
a 2 metre spear and a 1400.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Few people do that.
Yeah.
Helps with aiming, they say.
Yeah, I'm 100 mil closer.
Yeah. So 7 mil, 7.5,
7.5.
single flopper.
Yep.
Single wrap, double wrap.
Nah, single wrap.
Yeah.
Twin 16s, and then a 1-1 roller.
Okay.
With a 16 mil rubber and a 7.5 mil spear.
How do you go switching between the two?
If I think there's going to be pelagics around, I'll just
Big
use
gun.
the big gun. And if I'm primarily looking for demersals, then we'll be the roller.
Yeah, right. Cool. Nicer in tight spaces and
Yeah.
crappy viz as well. And
Yep.
yeah, cool. But there's drawbacks to everything, isn't there? It's nice to have a bit of a bit of a quiver, even if it is just 2 guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's probably like 11 or 12 of them in the shed. They're just the only ones that I take with me these days.
Yeah. When you're diving in comp, will you carry 2 guns?
Yep.
Yeah. Will you carry 1 spear gun between 2 divers or 2 spear guns between 2 divers?
As in spares?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably just have 1 spare.
1 between the 2 of you. Yeah.
Yeah, probably just have whatever our preference is first. Like when we go over, we'll probably have our preferred gun each, and then probably a short gun with a little pranger or trident for some cave fish.
Sick. I've had a blast, Vin. Let's do Spearo Q&A, and then we'll head on out to a Q&A with the audience. If you could start it all over again, what would you do differently?
Maybe slow down a little bit at the start. Yeah, I got pretty keen pretty fast. I had a bit of an aptitude, and started. I was probably the first generation that could watch YouTube. Like I was just on that front lip where you could sit down in the evening and search spearfishing, and there'd be 10 new videos for the day.
Yeah.
And you could watch them all. And that only took a year, and that became an impossibility. But yeah, I just consumed a lot of material really fast. And it was good. I improved pretty rapidly, but I feel like those really slow gains are the most sustainable ones. I plateaued for a long time after that, and probably enjoyed that slow growth more.
Yeah, you can rush it, and you don't have the wisdom sometimes to do make the right decisions when you're down. Yeah, great, good, cool. Dream destination for you, and maybe dream fish.
To be honest, yeah.
All right. We might come back to it. Most influential person or people when you're diving?
Baz is the most inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've dived on and off with Barry a bit over the years, but like to see a guy in his 70s pulling fish out of 30 metres of water.
Yeah.
Just, it lets you know that, as long as you're keen and you've got the drive to do it, it's a sport you can do forever.
Yeah, it's awesome. I like that too. What does a spearfishing experience mean to you these days?
It's the quiet. Yeah, I got into meditation a little bit at the outset, and haven't come back to it much because life's too busy. But I get that silence and time underwater. I feel like that makes me a more sort of stable person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Nicer to be around.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good sales point for the spouse as well.
Yeah.
Circle back, dream destination or dream fish. Did you want to answer it? Otherwise, we'll head on out to these guys.
Nah, nothing grabs me. Big doggy would be nice, but that's a generic answer.
Okay, cool. Right, questions for Captain Vin Rushworth. Anyone? Has anyone got one? I'll bring the mic to you. All right. Che.
Are any records like done on length or all weight?
Now, all the records are done on weight.
Yeah.
We probably skipped it a bit before. They've got to go over a good set of scales, certified preferably, at least calibrated with a report. We get a length and a girth as a good comparison and data over time to compare different fish over the years, but that's all weight.
And have you ever been like unlucky, like you shoot a really massive fish but it just doesn't have a good stomach for extra weight? Or?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like
he's the records keeper, seconds.
Stuffing full. Yeah, the bigger those fish get, the broader the space on the length to weight curve gets. So, like coral trout, the current bar cheek coral trout is definitely not the longest fish that I've seen shot. I've seen plenty longer, but yeah, I don't know. They've got to eat a parrotfish on the day.
We'll have one stuffed in their mouth, yeah. Any more questions, guys? I got one over here. I think it's one of Captain Vin's dive buddies.
Reach out.
I can't refer to you as captain because you don't have a boat at the moment, but I'll refer to you as professor for your marine credentials. how does one never get a double or a triple chin whilst holding a large fish with your dive hood off?
Just don't tuck it in.
You got good fish arms?
Oh, I don't think they're that great, but I don't know. A couple of the boys give me a bit of a razz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see your dog buddies don't want to give you a bit of a razz. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Maybe taxidermy or records in particular, maybe?
Hey, sorry. Hi, Perth Wahoo. Have you got any stories or got a glimpse of them or a bit of a unicorn fish?
So just for the record of Perth Wahoo, any stories, glimpses?
Yeah, there was plenty around this season. Yeah, I didn't get one this year, but I know, yeah, half a dozen guys did. I've picked up a couple over the years. Yeah, back at Rottnest, a couple of the offshore pinnacles, just when that current's really running hot and blue. Yeah, they're definitely not impossible, Metro. Yeah.
Dirty tricks with finding spots here? Are people saving the photos and going into the metadata to find out where you shot stuff?
Not that I know of, yeah.
Have you heard of that trick?
I know the possibilities, but yeah, no, not that I've heard.
Okay, cool.
I was just going to ask for tips on hunting and getting better with breast hold and all of that.
Okay, cool.
Start
with hunting.
Just get to know the fish you're looking for and their behaviour, I guess. What you can do and, like, it's time in the water, but what you can do and can't do with what will push them away. Some species you can sort of swim at and shoot and they'll tolerate that pressure, and others, you really need to sit on the bottom and not make eye contact. You can sort of only learn by doing on those. Just, I don't know, there's a good resource in all the videos out there to see, how they respond for when you can't necessarily get time to get in the water, but yeah, not a great answer, but time.
I've learned a lot from following good divers and just watching what they do.
Yeah.
Letting them dictate where we go for a start. Because if you're inexperienced and you're following an experienced guy, you're their dive buddy with them, and they're going in a specific direction, they're doing it for a specific reason. And if you peel off on your dive and go in another direction, it's a good way to ruin that friendship, and you learn a lot just by watching, I think.
Yeah.
Breath hold, not everyone has a natural aptitude for it. Do you ever recommend any training, or how do people steadily improve with that side of things?
Yeah, I guess it all depends how naturally it comes to you and what you feel. I've done a fair bit of training on and off over the years. If you've got a local group that's doing pool training, there's one in Perth. I think just that regular breath hold, just makes life a lot easier.
What's the Perth group called? And actually, while we're there, talk about the local spearfishing clubs just briefly as well, if you can.
I think the Perth one's just like Perth Freedive Training. They've just got a Facebook page.
Are they Spearo friendly?
Yeah, I haven't been down for a fair few years, but yeah, I think they're probably 80% Spearos, 90% Spearos.
Cool.
And then within Perth, there's two decent sized clubs. There's Blue Water Freedivers at WA and WA Undersea Club.
Okay.
If you're just starting out, just join a club.
Yeah.
There's no better tip, essentially.
Get surrounded by professors and captains and all sorts of people like that.
Yeah.
Any more titles from fellas? I'm enjoying that.
Could you explain with the secondary drowning? I understand what that was, so yeah.
I haven't got a great medical answer for you, except that if anyone's got salt water on their lungs, it's something that they get worried about after the fact.
Can you just talk about the snorkel? Because that's by keeping your snorkel in. A relatively simple one, like when you've been spearing a long time, but... The part of the whole reason that everyone's always told or taught to spit their snorkel out when they dive is because if you were to have a blackout or a sandbag and you had your snorkel still in your mouth, there's much more chance that you're going to ingest seawater. But in terms of secondary drowning, it's a bit out of my wheelhouse, except that it's medically something they're worried about if you've got any salt water on your lungs. A lot of the time when you have a blackout, your body will naturally shut your airways. which prevents it, but it does happen, particularly like people spasm and they lose control of their muscles, opens up airways, you get water down there, and I'm not too sure on it either. It'd actually be a really interesting thing to talk to a doctor about and get some more higher level.
Yeah, that and I think you're talking to Adreno a little while back about different squeezes. Yeah, I've never heard it fully explained well. Could be good podcast.
Trachea and lung and all of it. Yeah. Particularly with a lot of people pushing the envelope these days and not having the conditioning to sort of do it in that adaptation. Maybe one more, guys. Here we go.
Yeah, Captain Vin, Lord of the Crays. You obviously got a background in cray research and stuff like that as well. Have you noticed a trend with bigger ones lately, or the population changing through WA?
No. No, not particularly. The population's really strong. The commercial catch over the last decade, they moved to quota. At one point they were about 13, 14 million kilos, and then that wound back down to under 7, and then that was really good for the commercial sector. They ended up more profitable, but it's meant that there's like a much bigger stock on the ground. Given the age of them, I don't think we should necessarily be seeing more bigger animals at the moment, but just the fact there's more density around, like last few years have been pretty amazing. Like, it's not hard to get a cray. Yeah.
What's your average age of say 80 mil cray type thing? Or what size legal cray? What's the average age of legal cray?
Legal cray, that'll be coming through at 3 or 4 years old. Yeah. And then there's no perfect definitive way of aging the big ones, but like definitely into the 20s. Yeah, if not, like it's very feasible that a big jumbo could be 30 years old. Yeah.
Do you have any theory about why the Western crays have got the extra long legs? Do you have any theories about that adaptation?
No, not particularly around why it's just the males that have them. I don't know. It's to get up and over. I don't know if it's a dominance thing.
Oh yeah. Well, they've studied dominance with some of these animal groups, and it's very strange behaviour, and it affects their physiology too, like how they come away from a conflict with another male and stuff like that. Very interesting stuff. Marine biologists get to study all sorts of weird and crazy stuff. Vin, I've had a blast, mate. Apologies for the repeated terrible jokes, but you've listened to the podcast, you know what I'm like. So, mate, thanks for agreeing to this. Thanks, Adreno, for hosting us, and we might mix and mingle and have a couple more beers, eh?
Thanks, mate. It's been fun.
All right, cool.